Chapter 13. Attack of the Bandits. Several hours later, Val and Dirk were finally a considerable distance from the city of Nanak. All of their problems now behind them, resting at the bottom of the valley, back in that crowded city. The landscape was an amazing sight to behold, down a big, long hillside, farmland stretching back in the distance, reaching just about as far as the eye could see. It was getting late in the evening now, with dusk fast approaching. The valley itself was nearly about to be smothered by the coming darkness. The two only stopped for a moment to admire the scenery in revered silence before hitting the road once again. "Dirk, why are you hitting the road?" Val questioned as his brother got back to his feet after doing as was said, hitting the road. "What?" Dirk looked down at his hand. "Oh, yeah, my hand was a little stiff from that brawl back there. Thought I might have put something out of place." Val walked up, taking his place beside his brother. Do you want me to help you with that? 'Cause I know this trick that you can do with." Dirk cuts him off with a finger simply pointing up, basically saying, "Stop talking, Val. Just stop talking." "Okay, fine. Hit the ground," Val said apathetically. "I'll be just over there." Dirk shook his hand, then clenched it in a fist, striking at the air in front of him, like a boxer hitting at a punching bag, jab jab, and all that. "Seems all right now anyway. It would have been nice of you to have stuck around to help with all those soldiers." "Like you needed the help," Val said, almost laughing at the thought. "No, I didn't, but you could have used the practice. We should get a move on. We got to get as much distance as we can before nightfall." Val nodded in agreement as they ventured to the north. Only, at that moment, Dirk stopped in his tracks. "We're being surrounded again, aren't we, Dirk?" "Yup," Dirk nodded as a gang of bandits emerged from the surrounding bushes. One by one they took their places on opposing sides. There were 6 of them in total that stood out, with weapons drawn, ready and waiting for battle. The question was, what were they waiting for? "Hey, look at me," one of them shouted. "I'm clearly a mage. Give up now." "Fear me, for I am." An arrow interrupted him mid-sentence, silencing the tall and slender man who really was clothed in a mage's garment. A pointed hat rested on his head to top it all off. Only Val wasn't going to waste time with a yammering fool. Distraction or not, that was an annoying voice. I really hate diversions," Valentine exclaimed loudly as the now-dead body hit the ground with no more than a gurgle coming from the corpse. Yet the surrounding men didn't flinch more than a second or two. "Keep your wits about you. There's still the real threat about us." Dirk took a fighting stance behind Val, their backs against each other's, bows aimed, strings drawn, and arrows notched, fully ready for battle. Sometimes, it's the less experienced ones that are more dangerous. Aim's always off, or they pronounce their words wrong and out comes the wrong, unpredictable spell. This was said with a cold sincerity that slid off his lips like ice. "Dirk, you sound like you're getting old." The only response Val got was a quiet "you," followed by a bright red flash that erupted from a nearby tree. Val let his arrow fly in perfect parallel succession with the big guy's own arrow, hitting the ground in a quick roll that put him out of danger. The bright flash connected firmly with Dirk. "Oh, hot dogs," were the only words that escaped his lips. He involuntarily released his grip on his bow. The weapon descended to the ground as the surrounding bandits charged at the two adventurers. A unified battle cry filled the area as more and more spilled in from the surrounding trees. Val instantaneously went flat on the ground, his hands covering his head as if he was expecting an explosion. Then it all went very wrong. Eyes rolled all the way back and a loud horrific war cry of his own released itself from Dirk, like a pressure valve giving way to a boiler that was just about to explode. It looked like he wasn't going to move at first, fists clenched at his side, head tilted back. Then he went silent as the first of the bandits came within reach. Silent and completely berserk, Dirk began to attack any and everyone in sight. The first of them never saw it coming. In a raging blur of speed, Dirk grabbed him by the neck, crushing down on his windpipe and throwing him into a nearby bandit that was approaching from behind. Reaching out for a sword that was swung towards Dirk's chest, he reached past the blade and grabbed the man's hand that held its hilt, halting the blade just as it touched the hairs on his vest and crushed the two together. Just as a halberd-wielding bandit charged straight at the crazed elf. Releasing the fused sword/hand, he grabbed the halberd that was just about to run him through, then flung the wielder of said weapon skyward as the halberd was hoisted up, and then it plunged into bandit number 12, who had just emerged from the surrounding trees. Evidently, there were more bandits hidden in the bushes, as to be expected. "Uh-oh, run away," the mage yelled at the top of his lungs, as a dumbfounded look faded away, leaving one of pure unadulterated fear. Out of sheer randomness, Dirk focused on that cry the mage had let out, trying to attack him as he turned to run, narrowly escaping the club-like fist. Another bandit ran up alongside the mage. "I thought the plan was to confuse them? What did you do?" He fumbled with the latch on his breastplate. It released and slammed to the ground as he ran. Sweet relief filled his lungs as his load lightened, giving him the range of movement he needed to maintain his getaway. "Damn it, Midge. I'm a mage, not a fortune-telling soothsayer." I casted my confused spell, the same one I did. The mage ducked under a branch, not daring to look back. The near sound of splintering wood was enough to confirm the raging elf's approach. "Same one I did nearly 100 times before," he finished. They reached the edge of a cliff. The two skidded to a halt, nearly careening off the edge and plummeting to the river below. Midge looked back in time to see one of his fellow bandits get kicked in the head. His body slammed into a tree and fell out of sight. The raging behemoth then turned his attention to the two that had been the first to take their leave from their ambush. "He sees us. He's coming to eat us." The mage was now gripped in a consuming terror and fled, leaping without any thought of the danger that would meet him. The mage fell to the hazardous waters below. Midge stared at the mage, who plummeted down and then impacted into the consuming waters below and was gone. "I can't believe he left me." Turning away from his partner, Dirk was now standing directly in front of him, silently growling like a mad dog that had only been released from his kennel and set loose on invading trespassers, his eyes tearing him limb from limb. Hi," the bandit said as he tried to swallow his fear. "I'm sorry." Denied, came a husky response, followed by the lonely bandit's heart sinking to the very pit of his stomach, just as the rage-filled elf gave a swift and solid boot to the face. A whimpered cry could be heard as Midge flew towards the waters below, to join the caster that had gone for a swim, but mere moments ago. Val got back up onto his feet and dusted off his clothes, just in time to see Dirk disappear into the forest. A quick survey of the area told him that most of the bandits had been dealt with. One of them that evidently escaped the wrath of Dirk had his back to Val, kneeling beside one of his fallen comrades. "Oh, glorious," said the bandit. "For I thought I was the only one who survived. For this I am thankful." It sounded to Val that he was mistaking him for one of them. No reason to let him down. Not now. "So why didn't you take care of that elf's partner?" Val just had to ask. That distasteful knave, he gave a quick shrug of his shoulder to indicate the spot where Val had been laying. "You needn't worry about him. That brute slew him before he fled and gave chase to our brethren." "He slew him. Where is he?" "Where? Is he over there? Where is thine thouest thirst where?" Val stood, hand above his brow, searching the horizon for himself, evidently unable to find any trace. "He must be somewhere, but where?" The bandit got to his feet. "Of course he's dead. Why wouldn't he?" He turned to see Val standing directly beside him, casting his gaze around exaggeratedly looking for the alleged victim. He stared at Val at a complete loss of dignity. "Oh, it's you." Val didn't bother giving him any more time and dropped him where he stood. "Slew him, you say? Is that what it looked like to you?" Val muttered to himself as he shook his head, a smile shyly creeping up. "Seriously, you might want to take a closer look next time." With the last of the attackers subdued, Val began his brief trek to reunite with his brother. Now, seeing his surroundings, you could clearly see why Val was taking his time. Dirk had moved like some force of nature, all bottled up, released on the unexpected wilderness, and the poor bungling group of attackers. Smaller trees were either snapped in half or on a serious lean to one side or the other. Others had branches broken, snapped, or shattered. It all led in a haphazard drunken line that clearly, oh yes, very clearly followed the cries of injured and stranded men throughout the shattered forest. Now it was not more than maybe 5 steps, 7 tops, into the tree line when Val saw the first of his conquered foes. Val stood there with his jaw dropped, silent and awestruck. To his disbelief, the brigand was stuck with his head in the cavity of a tree trunk, with several unidentifiable weapons bent and twisted around his appendages, pinning him upside down to the tree. The moaning that emanated from the trunk sounded as if there had to be more than one of them in there. Probably 3 or 4, but that wouldn't work, wouldn't even make sense. The hole wasn't much bigger than a man's head, but there was that third leg that seemed to be sticking out of a crack further up the tree. A couple more feet was all he could advance before Val busted his gut laughing. There in a bush were what had to be 3 of the most unfortunate of the bunch. One man had one of his feet stuck up one guy's anus, while his other foot was stuck up another's, but still alive at least. The funniest part of this was seeing them stuck in 3 different trees, all holding on, unsure of what they could do. Val knew what he would do. Point and laugh. Several minutes passed as Val wandered down the fresh path, with a man stuck in a bush here and one laying bent over on the ground over there. He finally caught up with Dirk, who was resting on the ground, his back against a tree. "Dirk, what happened to you back there? It's like you went completely mad." "Yes, I know." The big elf looked up, rubbing at his eyes as if something had gotten in them. "I think the mage was trying to cast a confuse spell. But I don't know. Went berserk instead, didn't I? Lost control, eh?" Val reached his hand out to help his brother to his feet. "Guess it's like you said. Some of those mages just can't get their spells right." Taking the offered hand, he got to his feet. "Control, not even of my own tongue, not till the end where I denied one of them mercy." "You don't say." "Yes, I do say. I think he was one of the ones in charge. All the time I had this full desire, no, hatred, this full-on hatred for the 2 that jumped off the cliff, just over there." Dirk pointed towards the edge. Val walked to the edge, looked down and let out a long whistle. "Long way down, isn't it?" "Sure is. So you think they could have survived?" Val asked, almost to himself more than Dirk, who just shrugged. "Oh, I almost didn't see this. You should really hang on to stuff you don't want stolen." Val removed Dirk's bow from his back and handed it to its eagerly waiting owner, who snatched it up faster than a cat lapping up a bowl full of tuna juice. "I thought I lost you." Dirk started talking to his bow, completely ignoring his brother, who openly mocked him.